Hello everybody, this is Robius here with OnlineKnights, and today I have H2ACon with me.
Hi everyone.
And as you can see by the title of this video, we are going to be covering Destiny. Now I just want to make a quick note, Destiny is not going to become a main content source for this channel. However, we've been playing a lot of it recently, and we just had some very fun moments that we wanted to share with you. So this is all based around the concept of doing social experiments while at the tower. So I'm going to pass it over to H2ACon now, because he really spearheaded a lot of this.
So basically, while playing Destiny, it is an absolutely amazing first-person shooter game, which obviously a lot of people really enjoy. However, what really intrigues me in the game is that for a game that had $500 million worth of investment, they also added in seemingly very few actual social interaction abilities. I mean, you can point, you can wave, you can dance, and there's not really much else. So what I wanted to do was find a way to take social interaction to a next level. I mean, we had the tower, a place to hang out. So we really want to see what we could do to really give us something to do while we're in the tower. And so, Robius, I think you'd agree that we ended up finding a few fun games to play while we're in the tower.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So basically, we wanted to start off with seeing what we could do in the tower, us and our group of trusty friends, mostly from our clan Blackwatch Interstellar. You know, shout out. These guys are awesome. Yeah, so we basically, we got a group of 6 of us together and we went to the tower to carry out some simple social experiments, just to see what we could get other people to join in. And what was it we called the first game we played,
I think we called
Robius?
it the shame game.
Yeah, the shame. What it essentially involved was basically just harassing and completely mobbing anyone that we found AFK. So the first thing we did was stuff like just forming a circle around them and pointing, and then seeing like which random players would end up joining us and joining the circle, because they didn't know that we were all together. They thought it was just a thing that was happening, and so we ended up finding a few times that we actually got people joining in the circle. And we ended up doing a few things where we ended up having mosh pits with large groups of people dancing around, or even this one time I was playing, we managed to get a little circle of people doing a dance around the AFK guy, which was absolutely hilarious. And yeah, so then we thought, what could we do next, Robius?
Alright, so as you saw there, the first one was pretty straightforward. Essentially, just kind of follow what the first guy was doing, press one of the buttons on your D-pad, join in on the pointing, join in on the mosh pit, join in on the circle, whatever. It was pretty straightforward. So we kind of had a thought, what if we tried to up the difficulty just a little bit, not too complex yet, but to see how many random players we could have join in with us. So this led to our second social experiment, which we decided to call the CONGA line, although there were other names, but certain individuals were not happy with them. Just to make fun.
I'm sorry, but we're not calling it a human centipede. That was just awful.
That's probably for a good reason. Anyways, the conga line, as it sounds, was essentially just a line of players. I think we made the rule just you had to be crouched, and then we had a leader, and basically all 6 of us got into a line and then progressively started walking, and we wanted to see how many people joined in. And incredibly, soon enough, we had pretty much almost everybody in the tower, I think, in the line, or very close to.
Yeah, I think there was one game we ended up with about 12 people out of the 16 just in our line, which is awesome.
It was absolutely ridiculous. And then we had a leader going on, and one of us would always try to trail in the back to really get a view of how big the line was getting. So to up the difficulty, we decided, all right, let's try to do circles around some of the vaults, or some of the storing areas. Go around the cryptarch, anything you could do to try to, get the line to intersect and try to mess up the order. But it was really fun. Nobody messed it up. We just kept getting more people involved, and we were progressively just going all the way around, all the way around, all the way around. And eventually this led us all to sit down in a circle. This actually opened up to the next experiment, which I'm going to let H2ACon start off with.
Yeah, so by this point we discovered that people are actually surprisingly willing to join in with these random silly games that we were playing. And so we thought now was the time to take it from something being very simple of just, walking in a line, to an actual game with rules that would have to be demonstrated and taught, leading us to playing our own version of Duck Duck Goose.
However, that title was a little too boring though, so we had to throw in a bit of a twist to make it a little more
Yes.
complicated.
We ended up with our lovely game of Duck Duck Suicide, which worked very similar to Duck Duck Goose, apart from the person selected as the goose would have to race the selector off the edge of the tower, and then the last one to jump off would be the next selector.
Basically, the way it worked is one individual would walk around the circle, as you do with Duck Duck Goose, and then what we usually did was use the lock-on feature. So you'd pick a player, you'd hit the point button, a little note would come up at the bottom of the screen indicated that he pointed at you, you'd both sprint off for the edge, and whoever got there first was the winner and got to go sit down. At first, we decided just to do this with our group, just our six. We were kind of bored. I think we were between a strike.
Oh, well, everyone else wanted to play Crucible, and I just thought, no, let's go and do more social experiments. They were fun last night.
Oh, of
We
course.
need to do more.
So basically, we decided to step it up, and as we kept playing it, eventually we started noticing some random players joining the circle. So at first, we figured they saw the circle, whatever. But then we started noticing they were really paying attention to the guy running around and then pointing at someone and running off. And they weren't doing it themselves without getting pointed at. So somebody had the brilliant idea of, hey, let's point to the random player and see what happens. Eventually, somebody pointed at them and they just ran off perfectly, following the rules precisely. I think they ended up winning the first few times, but afterwards, when one of them lost, you actually saw him go on the outside of the circle and do exactly what we were doing, walking to each individual person, choosing one, pointing, and then both running off.
That's not to say that all the players we encountered got it. Some of them were just a bit stupid and ended up dancing in the center of the circle, trying to make it all about them. But the vast majority of people we encountered ended up sitting down, watching our demonstrations, and understanding the game. And it eventually got to the point where these random volunteers to our experiments were actually playing with each other without even needing us to input, with them selecting and them being the selected goose. So we ended up in the amazing situation of meaning to play Crucible and then realizing we'd spent over an hour just playing Duck Duck Goose in a game which has been specifically designed for amazing first-person shooter action, which of course ended up being a massive success.
So if you couldn't tell already from the footage, you could just see somebody poking at each person going duck, 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 and then finally saying goose. And then you can see both people sprinting off. And it's a pretty simple concept when you break it down, but the fact that we didn't speak to a single person, none of this was done through party or game chat, or I don't even know if there is game chat in Destiny, to be honest, but there was no communication whatsoever. We just got them in the group, and like H2ACon said, eventually we just had a bunch of random people playing the game without us, essentially. Because at first we would specifically choose our players so that they would understand the rules. However, as time went on, it was no longer necessary. They were teaching each other, and aside from the few people who were not catching on, it was actually incredible to watch. And some of us ended up leaving at some point and just waiting to the side and watching them play over and over. And right at the end, we ended up inviting some of them to the party just to get their thoughts. And they explained that, yeah, they just got in just to sit down, and they ended up totally catching on to the concept. It was hilarious.
I think we even had one guy who invited his friend to his fire team and got him to play the game with us as well. This guy had been playing some other game, ended up joining us just to play Duck Duck Suicide, which was awesome.
And that about wraps up this episode of Destiny, a social experiment. This is a concept that we wouldn't mind exploring a little bit in the future, so if you guys have any ideas for any other social experiments, we've already been brewing up a few in our heads, trying to figure out what to do next. But if you guys have any suggestions, feel free to comment them in the comment section below. Anything else you want to say, H2ACon?
Yeah, definitely, guys, if you're ever in the tower, give it a go, carry out some experiments of your own. They're definitely really fun, and if we can make Duck Duck Suicide the official sport of Destiny, that would be incredibly
That would be absolutely hilarious.
Something. Oh, yeah.
Anyways, guys, I've been Robius here with OnlineKnights.
And I've been H2ACon.
Thank you all for watching.
Bye!